Good afternoon. My name is Melissa, and today I'm going to explain to you how to choose a bottle of wine. I chose this topic because I love wine, and choosing a bottle is actually quite an art form. The first thing to decide is what kind of glass you're going to use. The type of glass you use depends on the beverage that's going into it. For red wines, you need a glass with a shorter and wider bowl at the bottom and a slightly narrow at the top. You don't want it to be too narrow because red wines do need to aerate and breathe. White wine and blush wine glasses have a smaller bowl and tend to be a little bit longer. The longer glasses actually help keep the wine colder. Wine glasses should also be thin. They should not be a thick glass. Especially the lip of the glass. You don't want it to be thick or to be rolled. This can actually distort the taste of the wine that's going into your mouth. When choosing the wine, you have to think about color. Do you want red wine or a blush wine or a white wine? The color of wine actually starts with the wine process. White wine grapes are immediately crushed as soon as they're picked into a wine press, and then the juice is chilled. The sediments that come from the grapes are actually separated, and yeast is added for fermentation. Now, white wines don't need to age as long. Some of them age 3 to 7 years, but the majority of white wines only age from the time they're bottled and processed to the time that you actually open them to drink them. Red wine is a little bit different because the grapes that are processed in what's called a crusher destemmer, and the stems are crushed into a pulp called a must, and this pulp is then this must is then put into a cold soak for a couple of days, which allows the color to deepen and the flavor of the red wine to intensify. Now, red wines can be aged anywhere from 30 days to 30 years. It just depends on what they're looking for or the flavor. Sometimes they're actually stored and aged in oak barrels to give them a little bit of an oaky flavor. It's incredible. I would love to go to a vineyard and see how they actually process it, because it's just watching the videos online is absolutely amazing. With all of the work that goes into the winemaking process, you may think that the more expensive the better the wine. However, this isn't always the case. The Huffington Post did a blind taste test in order to find out if this was true. Does the price actually reflect the quality of the wine? For red wines, they had a $3 bottle of Cabernet Sauvignon from Trader Joe's and a $65 bottle of Laurel Glen Cabernet. The results of this test were that only 38% could correctly identify the more expensive wine. Of that, 62% actually preferred the cheaper bottle of wine. I think it's crazy because even though they could correctly identify the more expensive bottle, they still preferred the cheaper bottle, which goes great for budget people. The white wine taste test consisted of a $5 Glenellyn Reserve Chardonnay and a $45 bottle of Cakebread Cellars Chardonnay. The results of that test were that 60% of the testers could actually correctly identify the more expensive wine. So the lesson that you take away from this is that you can't judge a bottle of wine just by the price sticker that you see. The price you pay for a bottle tends to depend on your preference. Do you prefer, like the first group of testers, do you prefer the cheaper bottles? Or if you're, on a tight budget, such as myself, I don't always, as a college student and a mom, don't always get that splurge. Every once in a while it's nice, but who doesn't like to, enjoy some wine? So the cheaper the better for me. The wines you buy can also complement the meals that you eat daily, all of your dinners, if you go to late lunch. Steak is better paired with a Merlot that gives it a little fruity flavor, or a Zinfandel that gives it a little bit of a spice. Again, a preference. Which one do you want? For turkeys, a Pinot Noir is really easy to drink, and it also appeases to a broader spectrum of people, and it's also really good for big Thanksgiving dinners if you have big families like I do. A Chardonnay pairs really well with barbecue chicken or fried chicken and seafood. Knowing how to choose a bottle of wine is really, really great if you're trying to impress your friends or your family. It's fun for those, random facts. I'm all about random facts. I love them. It's also really good if you are trying to impress your boss. Being able to teach them something that they can use later on that's a little bit more on the sophisticated side is really great way to break the ice, especially if you're at a dinner party. And now that you have this information, you can experiment yourselves and have fun finding your favorite wine. No matter what you're eating or what kind of wine you choose, the most important thing is to enjoy yourself. My advice to you, and I haven't even done this yet, but I want to so badly, is to go find a wine tasting. Sometimes they come around and you can find them at convention centers or hotels have wine tastings. Search the area, find one. Not only are you going to get a wider variety, but you're also not going to have to purchase an entire bottle, and if you don't like it, that bottle goes to waste. So going to a wine taste, it's actually very beneficial to your pocketbook. And if anybody ever suggests that drinking wine is not healthy for you, there are actually many health benefits of drinking wine, such as lowering your cholesterol, reduced risk of heart disease, and it can also reduce the risk of cataracts. So again, now that you have this information, drink up and enjoy.